What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Limitless Business Owners Podcast. My name is Andrew Giorgi, and I'm here with my co-host of the podcast, Dan Fisher. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, first of all, we want to welcome you. Okay, we're super excited to be on this journey, this business owner journey with you, and help you along the way. Okay, our whole goal with this podcast and really our passion in life is to bring the everyday business owner content and stories they can relate to, and also fresh new perspectives, fresh new mindsets, new thoughts, new ideas, strategies, tactics to help you grow your business. Okay, if you take one thing out of each episode and start implementing it into your life and business today, we promise you're going to start seeing massive growth. Let's hop into the show. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I am not alone this week. I got the man back, the man, the myth, the legend.
Man. I'm refreshed, and I appreciate you very much for taking over. And you did a very awesome job, talking about just working hard for nothing. And I thought that was a really good episode. So really good value, even though you did it alone. So you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, I sat down. I was like, man, I don't have Dan this week. So how do I keep it engaged? It was a shorter episode. I think it worked out just fine. You got a little break from the craziness. And how was Outer Banks? Was it good?
It was great. We went out. It was a crucial vacation. One of those ones when you're a business owner, you don't really get to take them because you usually have your computer, your phone with you. And I did have that, but I did pull back just a little bit just because it was needed. But they are rare, and business owners will find out that, your vacations in the first 3 years are little to zero. You might travel, but they might be business oriented or something. So it was nice. We went out to Nag's Head, Outer Banks, and I got sun the first day, and then I was like the t-shirt guy for like 2 days. I can't trust spray SPF. So that was me going out there getting completely lobster red on the first day. Not as bad as my brother, but hey, all in all, we had a great vacation, great for the family time as well.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Even when you're away, the business did great. Royal seemed like things were going good. So business owners take a break. Like your business is going to be okay. If you have a team, rely on your team. It's actually probably a great time to have like a measuring stick for your team too, to see, wait, I can step away and they can take care of what they need. The business needs to. And then you're able to come back refreshed and probably implement some new things, new thoughts. I'm sure hit you whenever. It's kind of what we talked about last week. Whenever you take that step back and rest, I guarantee you, Dan, that you had some clarity and some new thoughts pop in that you're like, yep, I see clearly now of what we need to do. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time your team wants that challenge too. So don't hold them from that, otherwise you're kind of doing them a disservice.
Absolutely. Well, today we're going to have an honest conversation about scaling. Dan, I know you've been part of several businesses and even with Royal, figuring out how to scale that. You guys scaled that very quickly and very well. I've been a part of a couple of businesses too, not even just my own, but other businesses of how do we get them from A to B? How do we start scaling and growing? And it's not always like, hey, how do we make more money? That's always a portion of it, but it's like, hey, how do we create more opportunity inside of that? So today we're going to talk about why most can't scale and why most don't scale. I feel like somewhere deep inside a lot of business owners, there is that, how do we go to the next level, right? How do we grow to the next level? But they don't really know what to do after that. It's guesswork for them. And there actually is sort of a science to it of understanding some key components that we're going to talk about today inside of this episode. And we're specifically going to go over 3 reasons why most don't scale. Gosh, Dan, we've been doing this for the past 5, 6, 7 years, being involved in businesses in key positions, leadership positions, helping them do, helping them grow, So through that, we've learned a few things. Sometimes it helps not being the business owner because you're able to not have your feelings attached and do what you got to do. You can look from the 30,000 foot view and not be so involved and be able to say, hey, this is the next move we have to make. And then as a business owner, then what we're going to talk about today is one of the reasons is why your proximity sometimes makes it tough for you to scale. And you don't do what you need to do because some things get in the way because of your proximity. So Dan, should we hop into the reasons? You have anything you want to throw on that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, there's no, I don't have too much because I know we're going to get kind of into the nitty gritty here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too repetitive, so we'll just go right with the flow.
Cool. Well, reason number one reason why we see most business owners and most businesses grow because they don't have a plan, right? And I think we've all been there. I think we've all we don't know what to do next. How do I get to the next level? And what happens is we've relied so long on what we know. We stay in what we know. So we don't know how to craft a plan. We don't even know what a plan would look like, right? It's almost like running, this might be a poor analogy, but running like a peewee football team and the plays they run. Like you don't even know the plays that the NFL teams run. They run some crazy stuff, So, but it's like there's some plans and some strategies and tactics that are involved that we just don't know. So you end up trying to fly blind, right? We rely way too long on what we know, right? We get to a certain point on what we know and we stay there. We stop growing.
Yeah. And these people that, the work is actually the toughest to do because a lot of it's admin work whenever you're putting in a plan. It's putting together a business plan, which everyone's like, oh, I did that in college, or, those are the things I hated to do in my classes. Those are only for college kids. There's so many different things people will use as an excuse to not do them, including myself. I used to say, oh, those are just a waste of time. But really where you see this pay off and having a plan pay off is about a year or two in, and things are starting to hit their stride and you don't know what to do next. And you got to make sure that you and your team are on the same page. So if you didn't have that business plan, you guys could be thinking you're going entirely different directions. So when it comes time for that fork in the road, you guys both pull the business one way or the other. Next thing you know, the business is doing two separate things and it's going to hit a plateau and probably go down.
Yeah. Well, and even part of having a plan is understanding where you want to end up. You can't create a plan for a place that you don't know where you want to go. So it's like, hey, what are your goals as a business, right? Okay, so if you're looking to scale, right? If you guys haven't learned yet through the podcast, I love reverse engineering and I love simplifying things. I think it's key in growth is to simplify and break down elements into bite-sized chunks. So we so we get that simplicity. Like, okay, well that makes sense. I could do that, but we tend to complicate things as we try to grow. So I'm always asking questions like, can I break this down any further? So a plan, it's like, how do we break that down even further? Well, what's the components of it, right? You have the steps of action, the action steps, right? You have where you're starting and where you're ending. Okay. So it's like, where do you want to end up? You can't build a plan if you don't know where you want to end up. Right. And part of that, most don't have a plan is because they don't know their KPIs and their data. Right. So it's like, typically when we're creating goals and creating these plans, like, hey, we want to grow from, 1 million to 3 million. Okay. What's involved in that? Okay. We have to go from 20 clients a week to 30 clients a week. Okay. Let's break that down. How many more leads do you need? How many more, and we're going to get to this, how do you fulfill, how do you, can your foundation even sustain that right now? So Dan, I feel like a lot of people, they don't know how to make a plan.
Yep.
And I'm not even talking like, me, I'm not like I'm pretty, I wouldn't say I'm suit and tie, like let's draw a plan up and get the documents, of like, let's draw pages up of documents.
Right.
I'm more of like, let's write it down, let's write it down. I know if you guys are listening, you can't see my chicken scratch handwriting, but I'm like, that's planning. Like, It's okay. Where are we at? Where do we want to go? And then how do we get there?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm big on testing too. So it's like, I feel like a lot of people, they try the same thing over and over and over, and they just keep trying the same thing. in a different way. It's like, wait, if you would have wrote it down, you would have said, hey, this way doesn't work, or that step didn't work, so let's pivot.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can remember that one didn't work. If it's written down, you can see, oh, this is that date we tried that already. Let's not do, like you said, the same thing and get the same results and be disappointed every time. Those plans allow you to ask yourself the proper questions that you should have been asking in the first place, that you might have in your head, but like you don't always, when you write it out, it's so much different.
Yeah. And I'm a big proponent of getting a big ass whiteboard, dry erase whiteboard, and put it on there. It's in front of you every single day. Craft the plan on there. For if your employees come into your office and see it, they're going to see the plan.
Yep.
We have you're the leader. You craft the plan, right? You get input on the plan, and we have to have it in front of us. We have to craft a plan.
Yep.
Know you start where you're at, where you want to end up, and create those action steps in between. So, what holds a lot of people back is they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll touch on reason number 3 here in this. Reason number 3 will help you get a plan. Okay. So if you're like, hey, I don't know where we're going, I don't know what our next step is, we'll get specific, get detailed. And you might be saying, hey, Andrew, that's a lot of work. Well, yeah, it is a lot of work. It's not easy. Yep. It's not easy. You're expecting it to be easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard, right? It's going to take more detail. It's going to take more precision. It's going to take more. Right. So the question is, how do we grow to more?
Right. And I mean, plans can run anywhere from micro to macro, right? I mean, every day, I've got to-do lists. The mirror, it says it's weird, but like me showing this in the camera, this is a moleskin book that I have to-do lists of every day, right? So every day I go and plan my day. See, that's your micro. Then you have your macro, which is what you're probably alluding to with the business plan and some of the questions that you would ask, kind of looking at your business from 50,000 miles. And that's whenever you can ask all those questions. But daily, you should be also making a plan as well. Otherwise, you're going to lose track of what you're doing. You're probably not going to do the important things. If it's written down, it makes it so much easier just to kind of transfer it over to the next. And then, that's how you start to grow, 1% at a time. That's what they say.
Well, and like talking about macro to micro, your macro goal might be to get 10 more clients. With the micro goal could be 5 more sales calls every single day, right? 5 more, can I make 5 more cold calls a day? Can I get 5 more leads a day, right? That's the micro. That's that's what Dan's talking about. And we actually created a really cool planner for this. Right now it's on a monthly view, right? You download a set for each month. It goes monthly to daily, but you write your goals out, what you need to accomplish, and you break those down into weekly and daily goals as well. So if you want that, Dan, I didn't tell you we're going to be doing this, but we're going to get that resource out to you guys. If you guys want it, we actually only have that for our inner circle people, but I'll open it up. We'll do like a planner.limitlessbusinessowners.com. So it's planner.limitlessbusinessowners.com where you can go download that. And
it's a really good resource.
Download that on your iPad. You can print it out. We're working on getting it into some sort of full year. That one you have to buy though. We'll give it for free. You just got to cover shipping. But we're waiting to find where we can get that done at. So planner.limitlessbusinessowners.com. You can download the digital version, which is what I use on my iPad. I like it better that way anyways. So
I do have one thing that might be in the way of some people, maybe just starting out. When I was starting out, I wasn't sure where to start with my goals. And I think that might be something that a lot of people probably struggle with. So if you're within the first year, if you're just transferring over to a new industry or you just started your business, you have to use your research of what you know of the industry to kind of go off those goals. And sometimes they could be wrong. Maybe in the first year, you have to be willing to kind of go back and adjust them just a little bit. Like, for example, I think I put in my first 2 years, I want to make like $1 million. But like, there's so many problems in between 0 to $1 million that you don't realize. So you got to go back and kind of readjust. And the $1 million can still be a goal, but maybe not within 1 to 2 years, or maybe it can be. It just depends on what you can physically do in your business.
and there's a difference, right? Like there's a cutoff depending on your industry, but like starting off is the hardest. It really is. Like getting traction. Like once you start, like you can start, like once you start getting to a certain level, you can figure out and pinpoint your KPIs and where you want to end up. I believe, I'm not saying scaling becomes easier. It's just a different challenge. It's different. Like I do feel like in the beginning, it's very hard to get traction. But once you have momentum, you can actually pivot quicker and do what you got to do on that end. And I think if you own a business, you've been there. It's like, man, it took me forever to get to 250,000 in revenue a year, but once I went, it only took me 4 months to go from 250 to $1 million. It's like, because you caught on. It's like you gain that traction. In the beginning, you're kind of it's kind of like a very back against the wall type strategy, right? And then you finally get out of it, right? And now you're like, okay, well, I have a lot at my fingertips now, so that's why people are able to scale quicker and faster at the higher level too. So cool.
And one thing anything people else might be able to think of to help them out is if they view their company as something that someone's going to buy eventually, like even if it's not your actual strategy, but if you view it as, I guess the proper word would be arbitrage, right? Where it's like where it's something that someone can invest in, or, if you're always viewing it as a venture capitalist is going to go and join you, then take that idea and run with it, because you can create maybe start with some slide decks before you even go into a business plan. Put on some just blurbs and put something out that someone would want to buy. And then at that point, you can kind of reverse engineer on how to get there. And whether it takes 4 or 5, 10 years, that's where you can start and then break it down.
Absolutely. That's good, Dan. It's really good. Okay. Reason number two. And, we're going to get deeper and deeper here. So like reason number one is kind of the general, like they don't have a plan. Reason number two is they don't understand core business mechanics and economics, right? And I'm not saying you have to go take a class, but you kind of have to have some business sense. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have business sense, you probably didn't make it, right? So you probably have some business sense, right? If you reach a certain level, but you have to understand some simple core principles of business and kind of what the foundations of business really are. And really, when I think of business, I think of we've all heard supply and demand, right? We've all heard that in terms of the economy, economic conditions, but I think of that on a micro level for each business. Okay. And you could really break every business down to supply and demand. Okay. And supply is simply, right, fulfillment, right? So if you're a service-based business, you're talking appointments, your service checks, whatever it is, your meetings,
your own time.
Your client meeting, right? Your own time, right? And if you're like an e-com, you have an inventory as your supply, right? So having a lot of supply, but then zero demand is bad, right? And you're going to go under.
Yep.
Okay. So demand is, your ability, like, do people want it? Like, do you have customers? Do you have more customers wanting it? Do you have more clients wanting it? Right. So I think of every single business you can look at, try to identify, okay, what's our supply? What's our demand? Okay. So I'll use, my ad business, for an example. Okay. My supply is how many, like, can I handle the client's work? So how many ad accounts can I manage right now? That is my supply. So if I can only manage 7, if my team can only manage 7, I'm capped out at 7, right? So it doesn't matter if I have demand for 20, I'm capped out at 7. Mm-hmm. So then my question becomes, okay, how do I increase, now that I'm seeing 20 people want it, how do I increase my supply? I don't have a demand problem at that point. I have a supply problem, right? So we have to understand our supply and demand in our business, right? Everything breaks down. So, if you want to grow vertically, which is revenue, right? And Dan, I know you're going to be able to chime in on this. If we want to grow vertically, which is increase revenue, right? You need more demand. Okay. But sometimes you can't grow vertically. You have to grow horizontally first a little bit. And that's team. That's being able to fulfill more, right? So sometimes it's a science of figuring out what we need. If you're seeing high demand, but you're not able to fulfill that, well, you're missing out then. So it's like, let's figure out our team. Let's figure out some ways, which we can talk about here in a second, ways to increase supply so we can now take on that newer demand. It's all foundation, right?
It is. Yeah. I mean, we've gone through it many times on the Royal side. What it feels like if you're looking for, signs, it looks and feels like a plateau. You keep hitting the same monthly revenue, and you don't understand what's going on. That usually means that there's probably a supply issue, whether or not you're not able to put out as much supply, or it means that your team is constantly just outputting the same thing over and over again, and you're expecting different results, maybe throwing money at it, and you're wondering why isn't throwing money at it not working. That at that point you want to maybe throw money at someone that you need to hire, or figure out where your bottleneck is, because where you're throwing money at it and if the revenue is not moving, you've still got an issue there. And that's what Andrew's really good at, is just good. Breaking it down. Where's the bottleneck? Okay, the bottleneck's here. Let's smooth it down, and then let's put money in the right area, put people in the right seats, and then let's move around that, because then it gets quick. It gets fixed quick.
Yeah. Well, and data helps with that, right? So Dan, we've been through it several times. Like, I'll go create a spreadsheet. Like, okay, let's understand this. And that's where I think we have to be searching for understanding. Like, as the leader, as the business owner, we have to be searching for understanding of what goes on in our business. And like I said, you have to understand core business mechanics and economics to understand that. So you are constantly looking, so it's like, wait, we're getting enough leads, but we're not able to fulfill. We're at, $50,000 a month. How do we get to 100? Okay. But if you have demand for 100, what's holding us back? It's not demand. So, hey, we don't need to focus on generating more clients. We have something in our processes and systems that's holding us back. And that, like I said, that could be personnel. Do we need to hire someone? Okay. Well, let's look at the numbers of that. How does that impact us? Okay. This is where a lot of business owners, because they're not tech savvy, they don't get, is what can we automate? Mm-hmm. What medial tasks from our team can we automate? So I have an example. Years ago, I worked as an operations manager. I've talked about it at an outdoor power equipment company, and we never had $1 million a month, right? Never had it. So as an operations guy, I'm like, okay, what's holding us back? Where customers are coming to the lot. We have the demand, so it's not a demand issue. What can we do that can impact the team right now so we can take on more? Okay. So I started analyzing our salespeople. Okay. Where are they spending their time? Right. Mm-hmm. To me, if I had people waiting for a salesperson, we either hire another salesperson or I create more time for my salespeople. So in our business, the salespeople took care of all the financing too. So it was like another, so they would go close them. And then there was another 30 minutes on the back half of that closing the financing. It's like, wait, I can create almost 3 to 4 hours a day for my salespeople to go close. Mm-hmm. Let's do that. Let's actually create a finance person, and we use someone internal. Let's create a finance person that can take all the financing and take 3 or 4 people at one time. And now frees my salespeople up. See how I created more supply? I freed my salespeople up to go sell more. Yep. Okay. What happened? We hit our first $1 million month within, that very next month. This was like the first week of May. That May we hit that number, because it's like, okay, you have to break things down. Okay, how many touches? And like there wasn't it wasn't a guesswork, right? I had data, right? How many calls are my salespeople making? How many people are they? Sounds weird, but we had a door counter. to understand how many people are. Okay. So like you start breaking things down, what matters. And the data really does help to say what move we got to make. So, but you have to understand your business, right? You have to focus on your revenue generating actions, right? My revenue generating actions, let's use that business as an example where the supply was, and there were some inventory things like, do we have the right? We always had enough inventory. We were great at keeping inventory. But when I think about revenue generating supply, I'm like, okay, do my salespeople, like, were they able to sell? Or are they spending time creating new touches and things like that? And then on the demand side, we had a phenomenal SEO. We beat out everyone in SEO. So anyone that searched for what we sold, they knew we would get out of state people too. It's pretty crazy. But, so like even there, it's like, and we actually have, Dan and I, we put it, if you're in the service-based, if you have a service-based business, Dan and I put together a training. It's quick. I know your time is valuable. I know you can't spend like 2 hours on a training. So we put together like a quick 10-minute overview on like, how do you maximize time? How do you create more time in your business? With like that example I just gave, we created more time and we made more money, right? And I didn't have to hire anyone. Like we just swapped an admin person to the finance role, right? I didn't have to hire anyone, right? So you can do several things without hiring someone, and especially now, VAs, automation. A lot of you are sleeping on automation, by the way. Dan's built whole businesses based off of automation. Should be like 20 people teams, and he's be able to limit costs. And
that's very true.
He's amazing at it. Automation specialist for sure.
I see it in the trades all the time. You have that person that's basically starting a business as a necessity. It's not starting a business as a passion. And we aren't as fortunate to be taught in school how to run a business or, even how to pay taxes and all those things. So the people that have to start a business as a necessity, usually in the trades, could be anyone else, could be someone that was fired or whatever. They have to learn these things kind of pretty quickly. And when you say like business economics and they're not necessarily equipped with those. So they tend to stay as like a one-man team. And then where those automations really help is with any automation, you can make a one-person team look like a professional corporation. So those are huge. Yeah. If you haven't implemented them, you have to, because, right now everything is so accessible. Just reach out to us. We would be glad to help you out on that. Also, I have an interesting thought on that. So usually when you're getting started, whether you're in the trades or, e-com or whatever, I would say most of the time your first problem isn't supply, it's demand. So it's usually marketing, sales, and education. So like if you're doing the marketing right, you'll know that you'll have some leads coming in, people are interested. Okay, then now that step's good. Well, what if people aren't clicking? Maybe you're educating them in the wrong way. So like if they see your ad or if they see you talking about it, maybe they don't understand it. Maybe you need to ask some people if this is clear. Because I've been there where I've explained things and it doesn't even make sense to people. So you got to always have to check in with your audience and just make sure that works for them. And then just like Andrew said, you got to tap in with your sales crew. And if it's just you, and maybe it's just you that are putting off the sales calls. I'm speaking to things that I've all done already. So every single one of those.
Well, like, here's the thing with why I think people shy away too is they typically take on supply way too quickly. Like they'll hire a person they don't need, put too much expense strain by doing that, and get a huge inventory because they don't want to deal with constraint. So they think, okay, well, if I can just blow up supply, then I'll be good. It's like, no, a healthy business is always feeling some sort of tension between the supply and demand, right? So you should always feel some sort of tension when on your supply, typically, and then you level up, and then hopefully you create more demand, and there's that tension on that supply, and then you level up. So too many people want to create a huge supply and then think demand's going to come in, but it comes in steps. So deal with that. It's not going to go away. Don't have the expectation it's going to go away. It's going to be there. You're always going to be like, wait, how do we grow? How do we get there? Well, there's tension, there's constraint there. Just figuring it out. Gosh, we would. even for Royal, we broke out like how many calls can my team take, and they're like, okay, well, this is why we're sitting at this revenue level, is because we're capped out on calls per day. So it's like, okay, let's think of solutions here, right? So you have to know your data. I literally can't. I mean, it's guesswork. It's like fishing in the dark. You don't know what bait you need, nothing, So if you don't know your KPIs, please don't use the excuse, I don't have time to figure out my KPIs. No, you can sit down, block off 30 minutes, an hour, and just think about, okay, I may not be able to get my KPIs right now, but what are they? Is it calls per day? Is it calls, like get some sort of data to give you a baseline?
And I think supply is an easy one for people to fall back on. Now for Royal, it was the opposite. We actually outsold ourselves multiple times, which is, that's a great problem to have, because
it's good.
Yeah, demand. Exactly.
You have more demand.
And so whenever people,
but that could bite you. Sorry, Dan. I mean, that creating too much demand and not be able to fulfill on it can be bad too, because that can cause bad perception and word spreads that, like, hey, they can't handle us. But sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I was going to lose that.
I understand. Trust me, I get it. I interrupt you all the time. So, but whenever you're working with someone that has too much demand, you can you're basically putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have tons of customer service issues. Expectations probably weren't set correctly. Because you might have sold them on the front end with this expectation of a timeline of when they'll get their product or whatever. That ends up being wrong. So yeah, you that's an exhausting way. So if you have a high demand, really start to monitor it, because you're going to exhaust yourself, your team. You can start to lose some important people there. But a lot of people do fall back on that supply thing because it's easy. And where I would fall back, I would fall back on like going and making a process, when really I should have just gone and addressed that we need a caller, or we need a person here. Instead, I was trying to automate everything, but I've automated everything in a business one time, and that has bit me very hard. So that business failed, but that taught me that I can't have everything automated. There needs to be some human touch in there.
Absolutely. Well, and automation is built for the medial tasks, So I needed to get my sprinklers turned on here in my yard. And we just moved into a new house in February, March. So I haven't had a sprinkler system before. So I was like, I call the company. Only one place service out here, and I'm glad it's a great company. There's probably a reason why. I know I called like 3 or 4 places. They don't service where I live, but this place did. But their communication has been unreal. So when the tech came out, he was checking everything, making sure everything was good, turning it on, and we had a leak on one of the lines. And he was like, "Okay, well, I can get you an estimate for that, and then you can decide." So that was like 2 weeks ago, and I've been sitting on that estimate. Well, I've been getting reminder emails. It's the only reason why. And then guess what? I guarantee you they have something, because I got a call from them yesterday. Guarantee you they have something that automates saying, hey, this person needs to be followed up with on their estimate. Right. And it's just staying top of mind. Like you have to realize people go back to their lives. They go to work, things take up their mind space, and they forget. So that's where automation, those medial tasks of reminders, staying top of mind. So when you do call them, it's almost like I'm thankful actually they did that.
Right.
I would have forgot. I would have forgot, so I'm thankful for it. So it's those medial tasks that automation really does help with. So, but yeah, yep. So hope you guys are taking notes. This is impactful. This is probably actually something we would do inside of our inner circle. I would say so. Really. I mean, that's, and actually we'd probably get a little bit more tactical. We do get a little bit more tactical in our trainings in there of example, like the softwares we use and like how to do it. Right. So cool, Dan. Anything else on understanding core business mechanics? Anything like that?
No, there's just some important lessons that I've learned in this. I mean, it's so basic, when you hear supply and demand, you think it's so easy, but it really has so many components in there. I mean, that's your whole business, supply and demand under 2 words. And then you could break it out into 140 different categories. individually.
Yeah. I mean, it's an exercise for every business owner. Like, okay, what's my, and when I say revenue generating supply, like, and especially in a service business, that's, like I said, that's your appointments, that's your sales touches, things like that. And then, or can you handle more demand? Right. And this is why we love, actually, that's why I love paid ads. Why I got into it, because, Dan, do you mind if I use
Yeah, go for it.
Royal's ad stuff as an example? Okay. So, like for Dan's business, their demand is leads, is generating leads through paid ad. And then, their supply is obviously handling the calls of calling those leads. Mm-hmm. Right. So, what could be happening is if you have too much demand and you can't handle that, you could be wasting money on spending too much in ads, or you can be wasting too much money in creating demand.
Yep.
Right. When you could be focused on reallocating those dollars to strengthening the foundation, getting supply up, because, hey, you're just X amount away from that's why I love paid ads, because you can turn it up and down and generate leads once you have it figured out. It's like, okay, well, let's turn it down. Let's take those dollars. Let's save those dollars, because we can't handle the extra anyways right now. And then we can turn it back up, right? Flip of a button, we can turn it back up whenever we can handle the supply. And that's actually what's happened. So, with Royal. So, I love using Royal as an example, because Dan's built a great business. It's a great team,
really
too.
Great team. I love the team, and the best part about it, getting the right people in the right seats. I believe we've done that.
Yep.
And you can power through with a small team when you have the people in the right seats. Then you can have with a 20-person team, and there's just like mismanaged people. There's people doing nothing. Like, if you need to, comb your team back a little bit and build it from, or if you're just starting, build it from a very small team. So it's coming from you, and then, bring in, diversity, bring in people that aren't necessarily clones of you, because you're going to find out that they're going to have some really cool projects, really cool outcomes whenever you put a team together like that.
Absolutely.
I know that's not really anything with supply and demand, but it does, it does help overall.
No, it's valuable. It's valuable. That's for sure. The last reason, okay, and this one's going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but the last reason is why business owners don't end up scaling. We touched on this earlier, but you look at things subjectively versus objectively. Okay. You let your feelings dictate your actions. And it's like having, we have a 9-month-old. So there's some things that I'm wanting to protect her on that I'm a little bit too overprotective. And that slows progress for her. Right. And that can say that like your business is your baby. Right. So it's like, there's times when we let our feelings of overprotectiveness stop us from taking risk, which risk allows us to grow. Right. So, you got to be able to, and as a business owner, it's very, very important to have someone around you. That's how I always looked at myself whenever I was working as operations managers or things like that, was like, I am that guy. Like, I know my business owner's faults, right? We all typically have about the same faults, right? We all, this whole overprotective thing, we all have that, right? So, okay, how do I get, the owner to look at things objectively from the outside, to where his feelings don't matter, or her feelings don't matter, right? And not that they don't matter, but our feeling, like last week's episode, I said our feelings can deceive us, right? They can cause us to do bad things and cause us to believe in non-truths, right? So our goal should always be to look at things through a truthful lens, and not our lens of our feelings all the time, right? So, and this is why, look, if you're a business owner and you do not have really, really solid, like high level people around you, which typically your employees are not that, your managers are not that, they aren't the people to help keep you in check, right? It's typically a business partner, right? Dan and I do that for each other. But it's also, we also look in other places. We look at groups. What groups are we joining? What people are we putting ourselves around, where I can adopt correct thinking, and I can start looking at things. I can ask questions. Hey, trying to go from here to here, and people will give me the objective truth instead of going off my feeling. right? So, and I know I've been there before in my ad business. I had a couple ad guys that helped me out, and I was super over too protective of my process and how I did things. Like, I have a process. I have a process. I have a naming scheme. I have all my stuff, how I do it. But what happens, I became too overprotective, and I didn't give my guys room to work and do what they do best. Did that help me or hurt me? It hurt me, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were in the situation we're in probably because we were allowed the opportunity to take a risk somewhere along the line, right? And you have to be thankful for that. There was someone that maybe they weren't paying attention, maybe they were, but we were able to take a risk and we weren't necessarily stopped. I saw a short clip. I think it might have been TikTok or something. But it was a kid running through a puddle in the side of the road, right, with his shoes on. And it said, most parents would say, no, don't do that. But this parent went and was like, you know what, why not? And then basically allowed the child to make the decision for himself. Like, yeah, it's probably going to be uncomfortable in those shoes after you're done with it. You might learn, you might enjoy it, and next thing you know,
right.
We're all taught how to, not think creatively. And it kind of starts right around those levels. And, it's us holding ourselves back for fear of someone doing something we're kind of afraid of. We see that a lot with people, with business owners and their friends. Someone will say, I want to go start my own business, or I want to go into multi-level marketing. And people will be like, good luck. Like, all righty, well, you should probably like watch your butt here and here and here. And like, just stating fears that they already have. But
I mean, the reality is most people are way too fearful, like, of the risk. That's why, it's why they call it the 1%, right? Most average around you is going to be telling you not to do it. Oh, it's not going to work. Like, well, they never made it work. So of course it's not going to work. If you think it's not going to work, it's not going to work, but if you think there's a possibility, well, yeah, there still is a chance it might not work, but there's also a chance that it does. And we focus too much on the what ifs and the what if it doesn't work.
Where
we focus too much on that.
I tended to be overprotective. It wasn't I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I'll use it just for this case here. But whenever I had an employee coming in and I knew they were going into a job that sucked, I personally would want to do it more than they would. Because I knew that job sucks. Like, we have some jobs on Royal that aren't necessarily fun. And, I empathize with that, and I don't want them. I want everyone to enjoy their time, and my brain, you guys know, is always thinking fun things. So if I could prevent someone from having that feeling of this is an uncomfortable work position, I would take it onto myself. I did that for a couple years before, like, I realized, wow, I have the entire business in my head, and everyone's just kind of doing, nominal tasks. I had to get those things out and really teach them in the right way, and they appreciated it. They're like, we figured this was missing. We didn't know where it was, or, we just thought you just knew it and we didn't want to bother you. But that held me back a lot.
And even with risk, like let's think about this. If you had to take a big risk in your life, most business owners, you did when you launched, when you got it going, it took a lot of work. So you have a lot invested, time, your most important resource, more than money, right? It's like you invested a lot, you took this big risk, and you succeeded. Right. How much are you going to protect that from future risk? That's what happens is we end up like, no, I'm not risking it again. And look, it is, you are always, to go to the next level, there's always a risk associated to that jump. Always. Right. So you have to start thinking, okay, I made it this far. I'm really good at figuring things out. And you can mitigate risk. You always want to mitigate risk, right? But that doesn't mean don't take any more risks, right? Bet on yourself. Like, have some confidence that, hey, I can figure it out. If something were to happen when I'm trying to go from A to B, right? I can't avoid risk anymore. I can mitigate it. I'm going to learn tactics to mitigate risk, but I can't let that stop me from not taking risks. Because the second you stop taking risks, you stop growing, right? Growing requires risks, right? So if you're a person that is a business owner that is a little bit too overprotective, which I know a lot of people are that way. I'm that way. We're all that way. It's our babies. It takes a lot of work, right? Bet on yourself. Start taking risks. Understand that first risk you took shouldn't be the last risk you take, right? It's going to take to where you want to go. It's going to take risk after risk after risk, right? And actually, the risk becomes a lot less, right? You have to be smart about it, be wise about it, right? But once you're up and running, like I said, the starting point is the hardest. That's where risk is tough, right? It's hard to take a $10,000 risk whenever you're only making, $100,000 a year, right? But you can make a $50,000 risk if you're at $1 million a year, right? So, you have to understand your business, but start looking at things objectively. Don't look at things subjectively. Remove your feelings as much as you can. If you can't do that, put someone else in your corner that can hold you accountable to that. Cool. Dan, any parting wisdom?
All these things seem so intimidating to a business owner if they're just starting out. It doesn't happen to you all at once. These things kind of happen to you in pieces. Start with the plan. That gives you preparation for some of the things the errors that happen during supply and demand. And then, whenever you're going to start next projects, that's whenever you can start taking those risks and kind of implementing the different ways of thinking in there. But it's not one big thing that you have to look at as an elephant. You take a bite out of it one at a time, and you're going to be a lot better than most people starting off if you just know those three categories, basically.
Absolutely. And if you are actually, regardless of where you're at, starting out in the middle, at the end, or you've already made it, you're at 10 million a year. It doesn't get easier, right? And I think that's actually something I learned last week. I joined a new group, and this is something I learned, right? And I'm not here to brag about that, but this guy said, sometimes we fail because our expectations are wrong. We expect it to be easy. We see everyone's end story on social media, and we expect it's just going to happen and it's going to be overnight. No, he said you have to expect that it's going to be hard. Expect it's going to be the most difficult thing, because it is the most difficult thing you're going to do, this business ownership. I would say probably apart from raising a kid, probably. But it is going to be really, really hard. So if you go into it with the expectation it's going to be easy and then it's hard, are you going to stick it out? Or if you go into it expecting it to be hard and it is hard, are you going to stick it out? That answer is yes. It's like going into a marathon expecting it's going to be easy. You probably haven't trained that much. You're going to quit pretty quickly into that puppy. But if you expect it's going to be hard, you're going to do the training that's necessary. You're going to finish it. You're going to finish the race, so correct your expectations. It's going to be hard, and that's okay. Life is hard, right? This is hard, right? And if you're looking for easy, it's just not going to be there, right? Dan, I know it's hard. It's, there's times in business and hard is different than good and bad. I think people think hard equals bad. Right. Like hard equals bad.
I was going to say, everyone that does the hard work is very proud of it during and after. If you're doing easy work, it turns into every other day. It turns into everything the same. If you had no contrast, you wouldn't have, good and bad. You would have just plain and simple. That's it. But there's some pride to it, and you can take that as a business owner. You can be proud of your wins, be proud of your accomplishing your goals, because those are things that fuel you. And if you're in this position, I believe those are the people listening anyways.
Yeah. And I hate to, I shouldn't say I hate, but I'm going to bring my Christian background into this, right? It was actually our verse of the year at our church, I believe in 2020, I think 2020, 21 maybe. But I believe it's a Psalm, and it says that you crown the year with bountiful harvest, and even the hard pathways overflow with abundance. So that tells me that hard pathways, hard things,
right?
you can still have abundance. There can still be good. It's like hard things could be good. And actually, I would say the hard pathways typically do lead to the best things in life. The easy way does not lead to what you want. Okay. So awesome, Dan. Dan, it was great having you. Like, I'm just pumped that you, like, I know we don't have a guest, but it's just like, man, I have Dan back.
You did an amazing job last week. I owe you one. So plan your vacation now.
No, that's teamwork, man. That's teamwork. We do have a stretch of amazing guests coming up. We've done three straight weeks and a solo. We don't like doing guests every single week, but we do have a stretch of guests, business owners, someone that's growing, actually 3 businesses we're going to have on. Several guys we've met in other groups that we're going to get a little bit more tactical with talking about storytelling, and we're going to have one just based on automation. It's going to be a great conversation with him, and then next week, another business owner, so we have some great conversations coming up. So make sure you guys tune back in.
Later.
It's been real, guys. Hey, if you haven't rated or reviewed the show yet, please take 2 to 3 minutes to do so right now on whatever platform you listen on. It really helps the show rank better when people are searching for new podcasts to listen to. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, where we post daily clips from the episode. And then we're just going to ask you to share those clips, right? You never know who of your friends are going to see that clip, and then they're going to start listening to the episode, and then their life changes because they hear something that really helps them overcome a challenge that they're experiencing in their business. It's really going to help them create breakthrough in their business and become limitless. Also, one last thing, right now we are offering a free 7-day trial into our Inner Circle group, Limitless Business Owners Inner Circle. And inside this elite group, you get to learn how you can experience immense, consistent growth inside your business, where you learn the strategies and tactics to grow your business, right? Surround yourself with like-minded people, other business owners that are experiencing what you're experiencing, that are going through it right now, that you can build key relationships with and learn from. And also some people ahead of you that can also teach you something that's going to help you overcome something in your business right now. And then last thing, you can leverage the strategies and tactics it takes to build your dreams and fulfill your purpose. Talk soon.